Hello! So hopefully at this point you've had a chance to kind of measure some circles using strings. You have an idea of what these words mean, and you've had a chance to look for the relationship between the diameter and the circumference. Um, Down here I just wanted to point something out. So this pi, this magical number that some of us have heard about, is really just the ratio of a circle's circumference, so that distance around the edge, and you take that circumference and divide it by the diameter. And what's really wild is that if you get really accurate measurements for circumference and diameter, when you divide the circumference by the diameter, you're going to get the same number every single time. And it's going to be 3.14, and then it just goes on forever. So there's no pattern. Because there is no pattern, we call it irrational. So like a rational number is a fraction, decimal, or percent. They're very clean, right? Even if they go on forever, there's a repeating pattern. Pi has no pattern. And so there's the most commonly used version of it is this 3.14 number. If we look up here, right, we wouldn't see pi because it has to do with that relationship between that and that. So the distance around compared to the diameter is pi, right? And so we can use pi to solve for other things on circles. I'd like you to think about what these words mean before you get started. So what is the center? What is the radius? What is the diameter in your own words? When we talk about the perimeter of a circle, that's called the. Fill that in. The only word that might be weird is this blank with the E. So another way to say equal distance, you'll see this when you're older. Equidistant. Kind of reminds me of equilateral or equilateral. When we open up, we're just going to do two simple examples. We can look here. So we have 4 different circles. There's one with a 12, an 8, a 9, and a 14. They're giving us different information in these problems. So here, that's a 12 because it only goes halfway. So it's like from the point to the edge. We know that's the radius. So one good habit, and I'm going to zoom in just a little bit, is I always label like whatever I'm given, right? So radius here is 12. That would mean then that the diameter is 24 centimeters. So I always like to have all of the information just on the circle, and then it kind of depends on what I'm being asked to give is what determines what I use. So the radius is going to be 12 centimeters, the diameter is 24 centimeters. To find the circumference, remember when we look at the cover here, whoops, pi is the circumference over the diameter, right? So we need diameter, circumference, and pi. It's almost like a triangle. There's a relationship between the 3. So if we wanted to find the circumference, we could use the diameter in pi. So you would say the circumference is just pi times the diameter. So that special number pi, that's the same number every time, 3.14, multiplied by the diameter, which is 24, and that's the math you're going to do. So 3.14 times 24 is going to tell us how far that circle is around, right? To find the area of a circle, it's a little bit different, but you think about area, right? So like if we were talking about a rectangle, area would be base times height. Area is 2 dimensions. And so what's weird on a circle is because it's round, you don't necessarily see the 2 dimensions. But if you think about it, right, there is sort of a distance here, and there's a distance here, and it's the same. And so weirdly, you can still use that pi, but we're going to multiply by, instead of base and height, we're going to use the radius, and we're going to use it 2 times. Right? So another way to write it is just pi times radius times radius. So it's almost like your radius is the base and the height, and then the only thing that takes us from this to the area is we just have to do one more step, which is multiply by pi. So here you would do 3.14. So our radius is 12, and then we use it twice. So 3.14 times 12 times 12 would give us the area, which we're measuring in centimeters squared, right? Whereas here you would get something and you'd be measuring it. It's just that string, so it's just one dimension in centimeters. Something that might help you, that R in area, I use the radius when I'm finding area. And then for circumference, remember diameter is long, circumference is kind of a long word. That's one way to think about it. Or you can just think of CDs. I don't know if you guys even remember what CDs are. It's how I used to listen to music when I was your age. So circumference, we use the diameter, right, and just multiply by pi. Area, we use two radiuses because it's two dimensions, and then we use the pi. Capiche? Have fun, man. Circles are cool.